on the promises we made to the people. And so the focus of the government and the party have shifted somewhat to delivering on those promises, or preparing the tools so that we can deliver on those promises. And so right across the government, there is a great deal of work being done to ensure that budgets are oriented towards solving and delivering on solving problems that our people encounter and delivering on the promises. The traditional approach to budgeting, we had a meeting with members of the cabinet and the members of parliament, would not be acceptable, where people can just put in incremental growth in a line item. They have to justify their expenditure through programs, and the objective of each program in every ministry and every region in this country and at the NDC levels would be how they're responding to a particular need of the people. So we have spent a great deal of time doing that sort of work, and it's just as critical as being out there and getting, occupying social media space. Some people who don't have anything to do, like the opposition, they don't have anything to do, so all day long they live on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, and they either magnify issues that are of little significance to people and their well-being, or they diminish the accomplishments of the government. And a healthy dose of that opposition has been portraying themselves as victims, the Mohammeds, to avoid the accountability for their criminal behavior in the past, which spanned many years, but more recently, based on the extradition requests from the United States of America, covered the period between 2017 and 2024. So I just wanted to start by saying that President Ali right now, pursuant to that agenda, has gone to the Conference of Parties, that's COP in Brazil. And at that conference, he will represent Guyana, which he has done admirably at many fora, and we expect no less there. Given the depth of his knowledge on these matters and the eloquence in the portrayal of national positions. He did an interview before he left, speaking of the complex positions that we have on biodiversity or climate change and the preservation of forests. And our positions are, the global positions are complex because there are many players, and he pointed out about the global dynamics currently, which would be one that may not be that enthusiastic to pursue climate objectives. And how we are navigating the global imperatives, but at the same time giving national leadership to some very weighty issues. And the national issues have been translated into models. We had one, the low carbon development strategy, which has inspired many countries around the world. It has been wildly successful We have raised a lot of money because of that model, the forward thinking in that model, that has helped many of our people. I just saw a couple of days ago that the Prime Minister opened a solar farm in the Essequibo Coast. And there'd be several others being opened shortly in Linden and in Berbice that will bring renewable energy to the people. And those funds, or the funding of those projects, came from the initial LCDS, an agreement we had with Norway since I was president. That was like in 2009, a long time ago. And the funding, now we're implementing it. So it's making a big difference several years later to our people. And now the $750 million that we have earned has been transformative to the lives of many Amerindian communities, as well as creating a resilience along the coast to flooding and other climate-related adversities. So we are leading again. And President Ali has now taken the mantle of focusing on biodiversity too. And we had a conference here, an international conference, and we're working to try to see how we can monetize biodiversity instruments so those could contribute to the preservation of biodiversity globally, but also to assisting people who live in communities where biodiversity is at risk. So I expect at COP the President to continue to give leadership on these matters. Here, before he left, the President also pointed out that we are going to be doing a number of things. So very soon, he will make a number of announcements that will impact on the lives of many people and consistent with our manifesto promises. So we've made it clear that Budget 2026 will come early and it will have funding to do the things we promised. The President spoke of, once again, of the orientation of our manifesto, creating more jobs, better paying jobs, ensuring our people are better educated, they're healthier, that we solve community problems, drainage, garbage, security issues that people confront, keeping our country safe at the border. And he even spoke of, given what has happened recently, but even more so, given what we've been discussing over several years, the need for a migration policy. We've already started a few years back putting together the project that is being implemented right now that will register every migrant, but also every other citizen, and we'll have their biometrics. So every person in Guyana will have a card with biometrics, their facial recognition, everything there on it. If you don't have that card, hard to survive in this country. You can't be working because the employers, people who employ you, will face serious penalties when they check their workers and they don't have that card. To open a bank account, you need a card. of that nature. To remit money to another country, because some people send money back home, who are here, you'd need that card. So we'll know everyone who is here in Guyana who is non-Guyanese. And we'll have all of their details too. And with the cameras that we're putting in, as we said, we're planning for about another 4,000 of those cameras that can recognize people. So once we put in the biometrics there, they can identify anyone, anywhere in the country at any time. So we can keep our country safe. Further, we have to pass laws to determine what rights people are going to have here if they're migrants. We want people to come and work because we need that, like on construction sites where we have shortages, etc. But they can't change the nature of our society. And we've made it clear that we would have to think about people who come here and maybe they can have residency but not voting rights. This would be a debate that we'll have to have maybe in the constitutional reform process, but also at the national level about how much rights we're prepared to accord to people who come here, given that we want to preserve our country for our people too. And and this has happened. It's not anything new. It has happened in places like Qatar and UAE, etc. So that is a crucial issue, and you heard the president mention it. Men might have mentioned it in passing, but it's actively engaging our attention, just as the other issues are engaging our attention, like setting up the development bank, working on that, and the other things. So these are very weighty issues. They will impact long beyond a single lifetime for our people. And only a party like the PPP that has a depth of experience, has a clear vision of where we want to go, doesn't reduce government to driving Lamborghinis and trying to avoid accountability for your criminal behavior. Only the PPP can take that approach to government. So all the shrill noise you hear and the psychosis and the craziness that comes from the other side, like every minute of the day, the world revolves around them. Guyana must, all their supporters and everyone must prevent the Mohammeds from facing accountability for their crime. When they were doing the crime and living well, they were not so friendly with all of these people that they want now to support them because they're now at a stage where they have to pay for the crimes. And these are serious crimes. And we'll come to that in a moment because they've been talking a lot. Before the elections, I made it clear to them. I said, don't come after the PPP. You have a right to run in any election. That's the right of any citizen. Once you qualify, you have a right to run. But do not come and after the PPP. They had to find a boogeyman so that people, and especially the stupid people, some of them who follow them, can't focus on the crime and their dirty basket of criminality. So the boogeyman is big bad government. We are being persecuted. So when people hear that, they become the victim. It's called misdirection. Everything it's about what the PPP wants, that the PPP is pursuing them. So when you do that, you can't pay attention. You can't sit for a moment, relax. And I would urge some of the people who follow them, well, you can't help with those. But some of them just sit back and think for a moment about the crime. That is what they do every day. Well, it's not going to work any longer. I warned them, don't come after us. Throughout the campaign, they did. And then after the elections are over, we said we're moving on to other things, but they keep coming back to these issues now, printing themselves as victims. But we'll be able to see whether they're victims or a criminal enterprise. Victims of political persecution or a criminal enterprise. We'll get to that in a moment. So, if you go into the mindset, my personal view is these people need psychiatric care. Both Mohammeds, the Hannah Mohammed and the Azruddin Mohammed, they need psychiatric care. They grew up privileged. They believe that everyone, when they say something, must believe them, that they have no accountability for anything, and they have an inflated sense of self. So before the elections, as a manifestation of this delusion, they said, we'll win the elections. You remember that? They're going to win the elections. Their polls showed them, they polled 80,000 people, and 65% said they will vote for them. Obviously, with the feeble minds that they have, these two individuals, somebody fooled them. Somebody made a lot of money off of them. They maybe told them they did these polls. Normally in polls, you don't poll 80,000 people. Even in the United States of America with over 300 million people, a regular poll would not poll 80,000 people. So it went into their mindset, we're winning. The Muhammad said, I have 400,000 followers, so they're going to vote for me and I'll get 400,000 votes. He'll get 400,000 votes. Only a person of feeble mindset or a feeble mind can come up with this sort of analysis. And a number of people who made a lot of money off of them preyed on this feeble mind that they have. And we saw the manifestation of it just a couple of days ago. So Muhammad came out of Parliament and he said, the PPP rigged the elections. And when he was asked about providing the proof for this, he said, I didn't get 109,000 votes. I won the elections. Not even APNU made such outrageous claims. Burnham made those stupid claims when Burnham was at the height of power in Guyana. And when asked for proof of it, he said, ask Jagdeo. I must provide proof about how he won the elections. And then he said, GCOM site went down for 3 hours and they changed. He was getting high votes and suddenly they changed it. Nobody else has complained about that. Not the observers, not APNU, nobody else. All the SOPs were uploaded almost the same night. And do you know what is the appalling thing in this country? That the entire media that was around him didn't say, are you a madman? Didn't ask him, are you a lunatic? How can you make such an outrageous claim, which was then repeated by his sister, that the elections were rigged and they won the presidency? It's evidence of lunacy. Something got to be going wrong in your head, unhinged. And that is why I said before all of this, I said that the Mohammeds entered politics. They were told for one reason. They were told, they knew they were under investigation globally because it started since APNU, and their names were submitted to Guyana since APNU days, as Trotman confirmed. They knew when the sanction came in June of 2024 that ultimately indictment and extradition will come because these are serious charges. They were told by their lawyers, if you're in politics, the US may not extradite you or may not indict you, because the lawyers probably felt that if you're in, like in Colombia, members of parliament there have immunity. In Guyana's case, a member of parliament or even the leader of the opposition does not have immunity from prosecution locally or abroad. You saw when I was opposition leader, APNU came after me. I went to Sokou several times. There I was basically arrested and taken to Sokou. So, the only position that offers you immunity is the presidency. And that's why he kept saying, people were calling me president before, since 2019, they were calling him president. And he realized that going into parliament now, that with all the pomp and ceremony, that it's not going to stave off. So his obsession is presidency. So he said he won the elections now. And he should be president, not Irfan Ali. This is a lunatic. And as I said before, he has a very mediocre mind. Mediocre mind. He, these 1 word or 5 word sentences that he crams before, I could see him mumbling there just before saying them. He thinks that was going to work and that will cut it. So how could anybody in Guyana, including his supporters and the dumb ones who all the time, defend that? And they will defend it. They won the elections. If your boss tells you this, you got to say, you got to be a madman to say that. Everybody else knows that. You got to be a madman. You and your sister telling us you won the elections and you were cheated. No evidence, but you can't provide evidence of it. I hope that his followers, all of them, let's see what defense they will come up, what evidence they will put up of them winning. At least APNU followers used to claim they had the SOPs and not had it locked away or something like that. At least they claim. Let me see what the claim will be from their followers, all of those people who they pay, and some of the Venezuelan trolls on their page that are hiding the IP addresses. A large number of the 400,000 people are Venezuelans. Might be a lot of them may have been directed by the state agencies in Venezuela to support him on that page. They're hiding their IP addresses and they're commenting there. So the Venezuelan trolls or his paid trolls or even the ordinary people who support him, those who support him. Let me hear what you have to say about that now. Is this not lunacy? Isn't this a reflection of a feeble mind? This is delusion at its highest level. It requires psychiatric care. And if people like him, they should refer him to psychiatric care. That's the first thing. But what was the thing in Parliament? Can you imagine when Norton or the others say that? The barrage of when they talk about winning elections. The same media will ask them 100 questions. You had a lot of media there, they accepted this. Oh, Jagdeo must provide the evidence for him. You know, that how the elections were rigged. And they talk about obsession, that I'm obsessed with them. But everything he went with his Lamborghini for me to see, he wants me to provide evidence of how he won the elections. They talk about obsession. They're obsessed. So that's one. That's the first thing. And this must, as the country must be asking itself, and a lot of those stupid people who follow him, what's going on here? Because many of them are like him too. Many of them are like, I can't find words to soften the impact of what I have to say. Really stupid people. Now, I heard, oh, he was a victim of some arrest. You know, when they arrested him and his father. Oh, it shouldn't have been done that way. They must have special treatment. Everyone else can be arrested in a particular way when police come for you. But they must be arrested in a different manner because they've stolen so much money and they're so wealthy now that the law and public officers must treat them differently. That is what they're effectively saying. Now, this guy has been accused of torture. In fact, it's proven that he tortured people. He's been accused of killing paper shorts, accused of smuggling gold, massive tax evasion, everything under the sun. But he can't be arrested by the police with a handcuff. Ashni Singh and Brassington went to the court. They were put in handcuff and ankle bracelets and all of that with big chain. With chain, they had chain connecting the arm and the leg. And guess why? Because APNU claimed that they sold some land for Movie Town at $30 million per acre. When that's the facility there. When the highest bid was $12 million for the land, they sold it for $30 or $20 million per acre. The highest bid was $12 million, and it was pursuant to a cabinet decision that Ashni Singh implemented. And they were placed in chains like this, bound together. This guy has evaded taxes, done a lot of things, but we shouldn't treat them this way because they're the Mohammeds and they steal a lot of taxes. So the country must have a preferential arrangement with them. That is the duplicity, the double standards. And I see some of the people, the same people who were cheering on the arrest of Ashni Singh and Roger Luncheon. You remember Roger Luncheon? They came, he couldn't even move, walked in with a wheelchair and was arrested. The same ones complaining how he was addressed, they were arrested. Now clearly, the police had to go there differently too. You recall the last time the officers went to enforce a ruling, an order, what took place? they mobilized a number of people and thugs to prevent them from going in. They then threatened some of the people, the officers, and their families. People were scared of going back. So you have to go in a different manner now. You can't go the same because they have a track record of mobilizing thugs and others to prevent an arrest. That's their track record. So this sympathy, that's what they play on. Look how the old man was arrested, this person there. By the way, this guy is a character out of some cartoon or something. He said, "It's my father, not me." He threw the old man under the bus. He said, "Oh, it's my father. He smuggled the gold, not me." And when someone asked him, then he should go to jail alone. He said, "I'm not answering your question. You're from PPP Media." As though you can't ask him, you know. He picks the media houses like Starbuck News and others. He'll answer to them, but not the others. This is what he said. He said, "It's him, not me, the father." Which son does that to his father? And they blame us for it. He puts the old man in trouble, and then he threw him under the bus. So I see all this crocodile tears being shed about the manner of the arrest. We were arrested too. On the APNU. And for what? Nothing practically. Nothing practically. They have a long slew of the crime. You have an extradition request. And they must be treated preferentially because they've come to believe that they're special. That is it. So that's the second. So we must have two standards. One for Guyanese, everybody else. Your mother, your father, your brother, if they commit a small crime, they steal 2 mangoes, they get the bangle on. They can steal the whole country and, we should go there with a luxury vehicle to pick them up and drop them off at the police station. The courtesy of the government to put them there. So that's the first thing I wanted to deal with, those 2 issues, because I missed a month. So I have to address some of these issues that I saw on social media. The crocodile tear. Look how the PPP arrested this man. You know, they shouldn't have done this. The next thing is Parliament. So they made it seem, and they work up a campaign about the PPP is delaying Parliament because we don't want the Mohammeds to be sworn in. Mohammed to be sworn in as Member of Parliament and opposition leader. Because we want him extradited before. Now, we know once there's an extradition request, given what I said, being sworn in doesn't have any impact on the extradition request. You could be Member of Parliament or leader of the opposition, and still it would not have an impact on the extradition request. It does not offer you immunity. So they work up this thing again, or we are the victims of this delay, and government is delaying this. So I asked our people to look at 3 dates. The dissolution of Parliament, the election date, and the convening of the new Parliament with every term. And they went back over the years. Their people will not research it because they're too dumb to do that. So, in most cases, in almost all the cases, because you have 4 months from the dissolution, and that's under the Constitution, 1980 Constitution. So up to the convening of Parliament. In most cases, not all cases, every government took the full 4 months nearly. So if elections were held early, like in one case it's held very early, you took 2 months to convene the Parliament thereafter. Like in our case, the elections were held about 2 months after the dissolution of Parliament, so we had another 2 months to convene Parliament. If you held it like in 3 months after the dissolution, you had 1 month to convene Parliament before it became unconstitutional. In most cases, every government, incoming government, I don't think APNU did that. They were so excited they went a month after. Right, but remember, right, in 2015 they were excited. They're too stupid, right? They went immediately. You maximize your term. So if you have like 5 years, the 5-year term starts from the Parliament is convened. So you take your time, you get a little honeymoon period, and you take as much before Parliament is convened. It's done normally around the world. It's a stupid thing. Oh, it's about Azruddin Mohammed. Nobody wants to, we are doing this deliberately. Look at the historical record when there was no Azruddin Mohammed. And you will see that governments tend to maximize their term in office. That's why long before this, on the first press conference I had, I said that elections will be held in 2031. Because if you start the term, the 5-year term in November, you have constitutionally up to, I think, the end of January of 2031 to hold elections. So it had nothing to do with this clown. But again, the victim, we are a victim. All week long, whole day, that's all they're living on. Holding the Parliament. We must work, we must help him. Convene early because we're so eager to have him, and the country is so eager to have him there. So that's it. It had nothing to do with Azruddin Mohammed. Secondly, he didn't go into Parliament. He affected APNU. And you saw it in the Parliament. But what happened the last time we left Parliament? We left Parliament when it was dissolved with a 1-seat majority and a fragmented and a unified opposition. A unified opposition and a 1-seat majority. We went into Parliament with a 7-seat majority now after the elections, having won a landslide. 7 seats, we went back to Parliament now the first day with 7 seats more than the other side. We only had 1 seat more, and an opposition that split into 3. Which party should be happy about it all? We're happy we went into Parliament, and you saw that reflected in our faces. And we know, we made it clear we're going to work hard to grow that by 2031. And we know we're part of the executive. We have all these programs lined up to make sure our people have a better life by that time. So he is hoping that he wouldn't go away. He's hoping, Primus said they can extradite him, they will not extradite his money. Primus, that's one truthful thing. Primus said, they will extradite him, but they will extradite his money. His party will grow here. What grow? What grow? The PPP is united, it's strong, and we're going to start not just our government work soon, but also political work across the country. And we're a formidable party. We're a strong party. We demonstrated that in the elections when all sorts of challenges from him came, and people were saying, we're a minority, we're going to be a minority. We surpassed all the expectations, all the negatives, and we emerged as with one of the biggest majorities ever in the history of the country. We only had this 36 seats in 2006. That time, so that was who should be the party that's happy. So don't worry about that, you know. So he went into Parliament and then he realized that. So I saw Starbuck News was gushing over him. They wrote an article. You write that, such an article that's like a lick-ass article. You should read it about him. This is a sickeningly flowery article that means nothing. So they said, navigated, right? He navigated the proceedings with ease. So Mohammed showed like he had always been in Parliament, came out and he had this confidence and he navigated the proceedings with ease. Apart from the other flowery stuff they talk about. So he navigated, moving, walking from the vehicle, taking a seat down in the Parliament, getting sworn in, and leaving the Parliament with ease. You know what's Parliament? I saw when Ashley Singh started reading out the bills, their eyes glazed over. Their eyes glazed over. At one time, I agree with Chair Duncan. He said they were like they dropped their mouth open like this. They didn't even know what was going on. They didn't even know. Look at their faces. The 16 of them were looking like, what the hell is this? What happened to us? Where are we? Navigated with ease. They haven't even started the parliamentary proceedings. Navigated the ease. Parliamentary proceedings. Parliamentary proceedings are different than walking in and taking the oath of office. So when the proceedings really get going, like they started, APNU, with all its frailty, put in 40, I think, questions and motion. They put in 0 with their 16. This is pure nonsense. You know, only a media, and I'm going to come to the role of the media, especially some elements in the media a little bit later because they're bought out. And this happened in Colombia when Pablo Escobar bought the media out, some elements in the media. But I'll come to that in a moment. So talk about obsession with me. I brought it for Jagdeo to see. He came with a Lamborghini, right? That's a Stabrook. They couldn't say, so Stabrook, this was a big story in Stabrook. He brought his Lamborghini to see. I didn't even see it, but I heard it's nice. And I was just going to say something else about it, but let me refrain from that now. So the Starbuck News said he brought his Lamborghini to show me. Now this Lamborghini, from what I gather, doesn't have any insurance. You know? To drive on the road without insurance, if you're a Guyanese, any Guyanese, you're an ordinary citizen, you're a reporter, if the police catch you, you're in trouble. You understand that? If you hit down someone on the road without insurance, you're in big trouble. But as I said before, the arrogance and impunity, he drives the Lamborghini to the parliament to show Jagdeo that he can break the laws of the country. You could show me anywhere. You could send me a picture of your Lamborghini. I don't give a damn about what your Lamborghini. But what he is effectively doing is say, the police, I was going to use a bad word, to the police and everyone else and the country. So, I would hold Hickens, the commissioner of police, personally responsible if a child or anyone gets hit down on the road and get killed or maimed by that Lamborghini when it's on the road. Hickens should face criminal charges too, because he allows it. Nobody else could do that. Not a single person in the country can do that sort of thing, because it's illegal. And we have one set of laws for everybody, regardless if you thief your assets and get wealthy or not. Hickens should be held personally responsible for that. Because if you drive there, the police just stand by and they allow it to happen. You could have shown me, you could put it on a trailer, bring it on a trailer and drag it in, and you could sit on top of the trailer. So it's not driving, and then you could come off and say, I brought it to show Jagdeo. That's not the issue, whether Jagdeo sees it or not. But the Starbuck News, they put that. They did not say anything about the illegality of it. You know, nothing, not a word about the illegality of it. Because they're complicit. Now, this is the same Lamborghini. Look at this. This is a cashier check from Chase in the United States Bank. It says, Remitter International Speed Consulting, tuning, paid to Lamborghini Newport Beach, $680,085.00. This is a cashier's check from a bank to pay for, in the United States, to pay for the Lamborghini. This is the same Lamborghini that he declared here for $75,000. Starbuck News didn't ask him. They know about this. They know the U.S. just indicted him and have strong evidence. It's laid out in the indictment. They gloat, he brought the Lamborghini for Jagdeo because it's about Jagdeo now. Not about the illegality. This is it. If a person could flaunt something like that, he's showing the finger to the country. Not me, not to Jagdeo, to law and order. You'd say, I can steal, I can evade taxes, and I'll get away with it because I bought off some policemen, I bought off some people at GRA, I can buy off some people in the the court system, I can buy off some people everywhere. That is what he's doing. He's showing the finger to the country, not to me. I don't give a shit about his Lamborghini. But this is it, criminal behavior and flaunting it in people's face. Drove it there. If he had hit down somebody, your child, then you would say the same win people who were drink the Kool-Aid. If your child being hit, like he hit the child down on the road, then you would have had a different view of the Lamborghini that he brought to show me. So it's just what I'm telling you before. They expect two sets of standards. We're victim, but the arrogance that they have means that they believe that they can do anything in Guyana and get off with it because they have compromised people. So we saw two issues so far. Now let's talk a bit about a third issue. It happened a few weeks ago, but as I said before, I did not have a press conference. So Starbuck News, again, Starbuck News, I think they're bought off by the Mohammeds, put a story out which says to help the Mohammeds again because their connection with Venezuela is a very important one. They're trying to cut that connection or any discussion of it in the public domain, because apart from the charges that are the indictment around these a few matters that have already been filed, I believe that when they go up to the United States of America, there'll be several on the indictment relating to connection with Venezuela, connection with Colombia, connection with Middle East. And the Jamaican lawyers pointed this out too. So they need somebody to help them cut this connection. As I said before, they bought off many elements of the local media. So you'd recall when Minister Todd pointed out that he spoke with the ambassador, and the ambassador confirmed. He said the Mohammeds went into the embassy. The ambassador confirmed that. Azruddin Mohammed quickly put out a statement. He did not go. But the minister said the Mohammeds, because in the plural sense. So we pointed out, I said, we have evidence that Nazar Mohammed visited the embassy. Now, Nazar Mohammed is the father of Azruddin Mohammed. He is also sanctioned, OFAC sanctioned. He's a subject of the extradition order. They're in the same family. If I were to, I know I'm high profile, I'm running for the presidency, and I want to conduct business somewhere, would I go myself? If I'm going to negotiate something or receiving some information from somewhere, I can send any member of my family. They'll come back home and tell me what's going on. But when we put this out, their campaign refused to answer it. Did Nazar Mohammed go to the embassy? Nothing. Silence. Silence. Total silence. They run off in, victimization again, we're being victimized. The PPP is lying and all of that. The video surfaced of him entering the embassy. Even his people said, the video is doctored. So, Starbuck News comes along and tries to help him now to cut the link, because obviously the United States now watching people who are connected to Venezuela. They need somebody to help cut that link. So Starbuck came and issued a statement. The Venezuelan ambassador said, no, the Mohammeds did not go. Nazar nor Azruddin Mohammed never visited the embassy. So obviously they think that that will go to the United States, and then they would say the PPP was lying. They did not count on Minister Todd responding and releasing the correspondence that the Venezuelan ambassador had sent to him. They didn't count on that. So Starbuck News, getting caught with its pants down and trying to help the Mohammeds cut that link, then issued another story Venezuelan ambassador did not refer to Nazar Mohammed in Starbuck News interview. So Starbuck News erroneously reported that the ambassador had said that neither of the Mohammeds had visited. This is not so, as he had only spoken about Azruddin Mohammed. Starbuck News regrets the error and apologizes to the ambassador for any inconvenience caused. Imagine Starbuck News apologizing and all of that. They say the vilest things about us, never apologize, but they're apologizing now. So, when the matter came out, so the next story should have been Nazar Mohammed did visit. Did you call back and now the ambassador and say, since we misinterpreted what you said and we erroneously reflected it, Starbuck News would like to do a follow-up. Did Nazar Mohammed visit the embassy? And if so, why? That story never came and will never come. That's how journalism works. So they visited. This is serious business now. The father of the candidate, an OFAC sanctioned person, a person who is the subject of extradition, visited your embassy. Now, can you confirm? And what did he want? That's a great story. That's a story that will never be written by the Starbuck News, because their objective was not to elucidate or bring information. It was to help the Mohammeds cover this surreptitious visit to the embassy, and it was surreptitious. So let me tell you why it's surreptitious. Because the ambassador released to the minister a document purporting to invite Nazar Mohammed to Venezuela to a youth conference. That's the father to a youth conference to be held on the 25th of July 2025. 25th of July 2025, he received a letter to go to the youth conference. He visited the embassy in August after this youth conference had been held. This is the correspondence. Here it is. That was given to the minister. This was his invitation letter to go on the 25th of July for the conference, youth conference, and he went in there August. Couldn't have been for this youth conference. It had to be for something else. So, given the sensitivity of the border issue, given that there are many claims that the Mohammeds were moving gold for Venezuelan generals in contravention of the United States sanction, given that Trotman confirmed that they were on this list since that time. This happened sometime in the past when there were sanctions. There must be heightened suspicion about linkages. That's one. Two, I made it clear that US Congress people get briefings. And when these two Congress persons made these statements, we were told that the PPP tell them what to do. Not that they may have information that's not yet available to us, but available to US intelligence agencies. So, one, Carlos Jimenez said, in the US Congress, we are alarmed by the regime in Venezuela's attempt to undermine Guyana through its pro-Maduro puppet candidate Azruddin Mohammed, who is sanctioned by OFAC. Maria Salazar, we remain deeply concerned about efforts to undermine democracy in Guyana. As a strategic ally of the United States, Guyana deserves leaders who respect democratic values. Linking the two. So, first we have connection, maybe a potential connection through gold smuggling. Secondly, here we have all of these statements. Third is when I see a lot of speculation about the terrorist incident in Guyana in the public domain. And what struck me was the lukewarm response from Team Mohammed to the efforts that every other media house made and every other political party in trying to get these people. When the police statements came out to replicate them, etc., they didn't put it on their page. So what I found very strange, and personally, is that the extradition request was sent, I think, to the State Department and Justice Department on the 26th of October. On the 26th of October, the same day, we had this terrorist incident in Guyana. On the 27th of October, they were signed. On the 30th of October, we had the extradition request. Now, before that, we had Odessa Primus on the 28th of October saying a big distraction coming within the next 24 hours. So clearly they knew, obviously from their contacts in Washington, lawyers and stuff, that the request was coming. It's a funny thing that on the same day that the request went in and it was signed the following day, and Primus posted on October 28th about the next 24 hours it will be coming, something big, that we had this incident. We can't discount it. That's why in the requests for bail and everything else, the lawyers from Jamaica were making the point, a very telling point. So I'm wondering why they're using their contacts in the media to try to break this connection that they may have with the Venezuelan regime. Now, I said I want to talk back about linkages. A couple of days ago, maybe 2 days ago, another OFAC sanctioned Colombian was held at Curupukari. 2 days ago, was held at Curupukari coming into Guyana. And what I say now could have long-term implications for Guyana. And if we're serious, we tackle it now. We have to come down very hard on it. When Pablo Escobar in Colombia, he became a member of parliament too. Pablo Escobar was one of the biggest drug dealers. They compromised the judiciary, pay off people in the judiciary. They paid off the police. They paid people in the army. They paid people in the media. They own sections of the media. And then in the executive too, they're bribing ministers and others and other people in the other arms of the executive. So they became untouchable. It was heading into a failed society. Look at the consequences for Colombia: kidnappings, bombings, killings, etc. These people, that's the culture there. And we should not, through these linkages, we have to be careful that we don't replicate that culture here. We have to cut it out early, because in that sort of society, it's only violence. You look at the consequences for Colombia for decades upon decades. When individuals who have money, ill-gotten money, believe they can buy out everyone else, including the media. And we've seen it here. We've seen it here. The media, half of the media in Guyana would never ask these people the tough questions. He went through the whole parliament, breezed through, and barely anything about his criminality. They didn't say it's the worst day for parliament in our history. They said it's a historic day. That a criminal, it might be historic in that sense here, that a criminal who is wanted in the United States of America, who's a fugitive in the United States of America, basically, because that's the act we're going under, who is facing extradition proceeding, is going into the parliament now. Never happened in our history. Even with Abdul Qadir, who was charged with terrorism, he was not a member of parliament when he was extradited. Or not extradited, he got into the US. So, this is something we have to guard against. And all of those people, years from now, 10 years from now, that's when you see the consequences of subversion. When people who believe that through their criminal, either through gold smuggling or drug dealing or whatever else, or other criminal activity, they amass wealth and they control all of these agencies, then the society disappears. And that's what these guys would like. And I think the man from the OFAC sanction man might be thinking, oh, in Guyana they're treating another OFAC sanction man like a hero. Some of these people might as well go down there in Guyana. So we have to look at that. It's not just the media. Look at the cover-up from political operatives. So APNU is compromised. APNU, I'm convinced the leadership, and some people in the leadership, not all, they took money from the Mohammeds. So it's not just media, it's not just executive bodies, it's not just judiciary they go after. They buy political parties. And I believe they bought APNU. They bought APNU. That's why APNU did not put up a resistance in the elections. They bought leaders in APNU. Darren Wade said he was told, instructed, or basically he sought clearance and from the leadership of APNU to go and defend their competitors in the elections. Why do you think that when they were arrested, APNU didn't say a word about the extradition, the illegality, nothing? They talk about the manner of arrest, but they arrested Ashni Singh and Brassington and put them in chains. They were worried about the manner of arrest of the Mohammeds because Mohammed got money, so they paid it to Apnu. Look at the lukewarm, nothing that comes from Apnu now. They compromise the leadership. Trust me, just think about a PPP member was facing extradition proceedings. How Apnu would be all hot under the collar, they'd be running about, they'd be orgasmic everywhere. They'd be that way. That's what they'd be doing. In this case, oh, you shouldn't be so harsh with the arrest. That's the only thing that came out from Apnu. They're compromised. They are bought. They're bought. Why you bring this nonsense over here? Who sent this stupid thing? Yes, no. So I'll deal with that in a moment. Yes, so no, what they sent me the stupid Team Mohammed thing. Imagine a vice president would sit and rant over 1 hour about a Lamborghini. For Christmas, I'll give you the car once the citizens receive their cash grant. You won't give me the car now. I don't want your car. You won't give me the car, the Lamborghini. I don't want it. I want you to pay the taxes. I want you to go and face accountability for your crime. That's what I want. He wants to give me the car now. This clown, yes. So you watching? He's watching, yeah. Since you see who's obsessed with who? Now, I've dealt with people like, I dealt with Desmond Hoyt as president. I've dealt with Desmond Hoyt. I dealt with Corbyn. I dealt with other Norton. Lots of leaders from the PNC, men or on the opposite side, but men of stature and intellect. It's like he's a new breed that I don't know really how to deal with because you can't appeal to him intellectually. You know, you can't have an intellectual debate with him. Oh, you bring car for Jagdeo to see. Now you want to give me the car. You want it? This car got too much trouble, bro. Keep your car there. Right? So I was talking about the thing is, look at the cover-up. So you know GHK Lal been cussing me non-stop, every day. He knows who's corrupt in the PPP, all that stuff. Everybody. And so it came out that he was the head of the gold board for several years when the bulk of the gold was smuggled. The bulk of the gold was smuggled at 10,000 kilograms under his tenure as head of the gold board under Apnu. So he's wetting himself with fear. He's all over the place now. Every day he's going on TV shows and stuff, talking, about it wasn't him, it was somebody else, he's clear and all of that. So he said he saw a list of 40 persons, their names and pictures of people who had been smuggling gold in 2017. And he gave that list to Trotman. So obviously he had a list of 40, as a head of the gold board, 40 persons, he confessed that, who were smuggling gold at that period. In that period, when he was head of the gold board, he claimed he gave the list to Trotman. Trotman said, I never saw any list from GHK Lal. And GHK Lal then said, the Mohammeds were not on the list. Trotman said, I had a list that had the Mohammeds on it. I had a different list. I didn't get it from GHK Lal, but it had the Mohammeds. So clearly you see what we're talking about. You see what we're talking about. So the Mohammeds, this it's not just about buying out media, etc. They bought a whole political party in APNU through a couple of leaders. They bought it. Imagine Norton, Sherrod Duncan said, Norton has him on a tight leash. He can't talk about them too much. Nigel Yu showed up at the court. He's not representing the team, but he's a friend of the court. That's how he showed up there. But we know differently because we saw them going to him and with Trotman. But he showed up, what is he doing there? He's a friend of the court. Oh, I'm not representing the Mohammeds because he's trying to retain his ex-son contract. So he can't openly represent them. So he shows up as a friend of the court, but really representing them. Now, Rosedale Ford is there. Rosedale Ford was the new PNC leader, was supposed to be the new PNC leader. You remember at one time? He showed up, their whole PNC apparatus. So, linkages, compromise, all of these things. That's what we are playing with here. When people can buy out a political party, then you have big trouble. And I'd urge the other APNU people, if you want back your party, you have to rebel against it. You have to rebel against it. Because this road is not going to lead you into a healthy future. So let's come to the extradition now. So the request came. So they like to say, oh, the PPP really bring in this request, and oh, the PPP is, everything is PPP. PPP investigating, now the PPP was investigating. The United States was investigating them from 2017. So now, even before we are in office, the indictments were brought before a grand jury of a large number of people in the United States of America. They believe that there's sufficient evidence to convict in the United States of America. That's a jury, and they decided to indict them. The request came from the United States. So you see here, this is the Attorney General. Someone signed for the Attorney General of the United States of America. And this request came from Marco Rubio himself, the US Secretary of State. You see his signature there? Marco Rubio. It's not a junior man in Florida. Or it's the US Secretary of State. That's it, his signature there. That's the seriousness. It's at the level, the federal level, by the US Secretary of State the request came from. We are part of a treaty. We are part of an international community that believes that people must pay for their crimes. There are several transnational crimes involved here in this matter. If you read the indictment itself, so I saw his lawyer saying, this is the Durjon man saying, the offenses for which Azruddin and Nazar Mohammed are wanted in the U.S. are not extraditable offenses under the laws of our land, nor under the treaty with which we have an arrangement, he stated. He said the bail was and a formation of judicial independence. Then went on, Durjan specifically challenged the prosecution to identify local equivalents for alleged foreign crimes. He has failed to explain what is one single counterpart in our law. What is the counterpart in our law about mail fraud, Durjan stated, concluding that there is no law in Ghana that addresses mail fraud and it's not extraditable. Well, obviously, Durjan did not read what we all read, because these are the documents that everyone has. These are the documents in the public domain. And they were charged in 3 areas, 3 sets of charges: conspiracy to commit mail fraud, conspiracy to commit wire fraud, and conspiracy to commit money laundering. Money laundering is an offense in Guyana, a serious offense, and it's an offense in the United States of America. It's extraditable. So clearly, Durjan remained at mail fraud. He didn't read the very document that's in the public domain, which speaks about committing money laundering. And from this small document, because obviously the US doesn't want to play all of its cards until the prosecution starts. But from the cursory read of this document that's already filed in the portal that is available to everyone, it speaks about Company 1, with offices in Miami, provided secure worldwide transportation services for precious metal shipments originating from Latin America. Company 2, with offices in Miami, with a private and commercial interstate carrier that provided worldwide shipping and delivery services of packages. Company 3, based in Miami, provided for freight forwarding services for shipment of packages and goods to Guyana by air and sea. Company 4, with offices in Miami, was a private and commercial interstate carrier that provided worldwide. 4 Miami-based companies that were involved in moving money and gold and empty boxes to facilitate the illegal shipping, because they are bringing back the empty boxes so that they can put gold in and use the same old documents. These companies, based in the United States, were all part of the network. So it's transnational in nature. It doesn't involve only the Mohammeds. It involves companies based in Miami. So 1, transnational; 2, money laundering, because money laundering is movement of any money through there, and money moved from back and forth. Gold was moving back and forth. They were bringing empty boxes, doing a lot of wickedness through a lot of the companies here. Read the document yourself. So I can't imagine that when this goes to the court, having looked at just this, without even the evidence that they are going to present in court on the 10th or submit, that all the magistrate has to find is that the offense has a counterpart abroad, right? And money laundering is an offense in the United States, and it's an offense here. And this here tells you they have enough evidence, even without them submitting the details of it, because prosecutors like to hang on to detail until later. So they don't have to try this case in Guyana. That's not the purpose before the magistrate court, to try the case in Guyana. That has to be tried in the United States. All the magistrate has to find is that the offense that they're being charged for in the United States will have a counterpart here. So he said, Dorjan falsely said, oh, there's no counterpart or mail fraud, but there's a charge here for conspiracy to commit money laundering. And even the mail fraud is and wire fraud. There are means through which money laundering can be committed. So this is a serious matter. But the Dorjan himself, they're hoping to drag this out. This is what he said. Dorjan did not rule out moving to the Constitutional Court before the conclusion of the hearing on whether there was sufficient evidence for the Mohammeds to be extradited to the US. So they wouldn't be jumping on a plane tonight or next week or just now. There's a process, a lengthy process that has to be completed. That's what they're hoping. They're going to use blocking techniques to delay it all over the place by filing frivolous lawsuits everywhere, going to the Constitutional Court, etc. That's what they're hoping. They know he will be extradited. Dorjan himself said the process, a lengthy process that has to be completed. And it will be completed. And they will be extradited because the offenses are clear. So, and as Primus said, they're not taking their money with them. They're only going themselves. You know, Primus has made it clear they can go, leave the money here. So today, again, to facilitate, because of the international treaty that we have, you saw their charges, the criminal charges related to the evasion of taxes were withdrawn. And the GRA has put out a statement. And so suddenly they're overexcited. They posted about 20 things. We told you it was not about the taxes. It was about them wanting Asruddin to go abroad and stuff. Well, it's about both. You got to face accountability for transnational crime, and he committed several abroad in the United States too, based on their law, and they have a counterpart crime in Guyana for what he did there. That's one. And two, the civil remedy for the taxes is already being pursued. They got the demand notice for the $191 billion already, and that came up as calculated based on the penalties. That's not going to stop. When you go to recover taxes, you can recover taxes through a civil procedure, and then a criminal procedure. You can then charge people so they go to jail for the evasion of taxes. So the withdrawal of the criminal aspect of it doesn't preclude you from going after the money, the owed taxes, in a civil court. You have to pay the taxes. It's two different things, but for the feeble-minded, Hannah and the others, they don't understand that. They jump on it already. They don't understand that. The lawyers here are advising us. It's out of the hands of the politician, but they are really good lawyers. And so, what was a little, about this whole thing about bail. So this is a serious matter. A serious matter. Don't worry. His lawyers are collecting a lot of money. They have to talk a lot. But people like Roysdale Ford, remember? Roysdale Ford has lost every election case he has had. He is not a great lawyer. He would talk about the constitutional matters and etc., like what they did with elections, and they lost everything. They have a duty to collect they collect money from their client, so they got to go and find something. Lawyers do that. It doesn't mean what they say is sound. They have to justify the money they collect, and a lot of it is the money they're collected. So there is this affirmation of, I was looking for something that, the seriousness of this offense. In other parts of the world, people don't get bail. Here in Guyana, it's peculiar. But let me tell you who recognized how serious the offense was. Roysdale Ford himself. This is what Roysdale Ford told the court, because he recognized that bail may not be given because it's a serious offense. He said, this is a Demerara Wave story. Mr. Ford offered a number of safeguards in addition to cash bail to ensure the Mohammeds do not flee their jurisdiction. They include reporting to the police several times daily, drone monitoring of their homes, bracelet monitoring, police accompanying them to hospital, and lodging of all of their property. So clearly, even they didn't expect bail, I think. They offered all of this. They gave the court everything. They said, we're going to, several times a day, the Mohammeds would report to the police, drone monitoring over their homes. They'd have this electronic bracelet. They can't come out of their homes and stuff like that. Their police can accompany them to the hospital. All their property they would lodge. So they must have been shocked themselves when bail was given. That is what we are confronting. This is to tell you how serious it is. But here, not only bail was set, so that bail was set at $150. A cash bail, because you didn't need to get a draft. It was Friday afternoon. It wasn't the seriousness of the offense that determined bail. It was a convenience to the Mohammeds. So they could pay $150,000 in cash. People don't get bail for that. You can imagine the world looking on at Guyana and saying, what is happening in that country? What's happening? And from the US and everywhere else. What is happening? Roysdale Ford, based on the Demerara Wave story, knew the seriousness. That's why he offered all of these things to the court. And so all of those people who talking, a lot of the Kool-Aid gang here, this is what is serious. This is a serious offense. Extradition, and it was not by a junior man in the United States. The United States Secretary of State has signed the extradition document. Marco Rubio speaks for he's a member of the cabinet in the United States of America. Pam Bondi, her office signed it. Came from that level. So they think that it will go away just like that. No, going to go away. Let me come to some positive things now. So the half-year report is in. Many of you have seen the positive things that have happened in our country over the last half year. As I said before, we now have to consolidate. We now have to continue to diversify the economy. And you're going to see renewed energy around those areas. I just wanted, before I end, maybe I should not, I just leave questions rather than go on much longer. I've already been going on for quite a while. But since I missed the 3 weeks, there's a 4th week, and since they think I have an obsession with the Mohammeds, that's why they said Jagdeo has an obsession. They have an obsession with us. So I want Jagdeo to see, he wants to give me his car and everything. No, I don't need that. So we'll continue to do what's right. We'll continue to do what's right. We're not working for the Mohammeds. We don't care about all of the threats and everything else that they're making to try to subvert witnesses. If they come down like a ton of brick on their head. And we're watching the people who are going to not perform their duty because they're compromised. We're watching them carefully. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Mick Rodriguez for Daybreak News. Just to depart from the Mohammeds and deal with some serious issues, business people are still complaining about access to foreign currency. Sometimes when requests are made to banks, it's taking upwards of 3 weeks to have their requests processed. Is the government monitoring this? And
we are monitoring it, and as I said before, you have people who put in multiple requests. A lot of the businessmen, when we look at their framework, we see multiple requests. They'll go to 5 banks and put in the same request at several banks. So we have that. We have a number of people still think they can beat the system, especially people, not the Guyanese so much, you know the groups that we're looking at, to create leakages to pay for goods going to Trinidad. We still have that as a pressing issue. 3 weeks to get their money. If you go to Trinidad, it takes you 6 months to get a few $100s, maybe a couple $1,000s. 3 weeks, if they have good relations with the banks, then they get resources. We have adequate funds to inject in the banking system. We have adequate funds to inject. There is a bigger shortage of notes, though, and that pushes up the price of notes, like the exchange rate for notes versus the bank drafts. And the reason is that the illicit users, they want to buy the notes because they can't come through the banking system. So some of these companies, like some Chinese companies and others, they go and buy the notes. They're prepared to pay more for the notes. So it's creating a shortage of the notes more because they can't come through the formal banking system. So we've been seeing that. And there are people who come here and they come in to take cash to places like Panama and all of that. We're watching it carefully, where they're taking out large quantities of cash. They declare it, but they take it out to Panama. They should be using the banking system if it's legitimate, not to take bundles of cash out, because it puts more strain on the availability of the physical currency, because that's harder to get than the bank drafts.
Good afternoon, Vice President. Kiana Wilberg for the Starting Point podcast. You spoke during your introduction or presentation that we have to be mindful or guard against, rather, the Pablo Escobar phenomena taking over Guyana. But I want to know if you've already thought of crucial steps that your government will take to ensure that Guyana is impervious to this phenomenon. That's my first question.
Yeah. So clearly you have to have an anti-corruption framework. That's why I said that we need to have investigations done in the Gold Board, at GRA, and within the police force to see those people who may be receiving money from this criminal enterprise, that's the Mohammeds and others, and compromising their work. We need to do that, and it must be institutionalized. Station needs to do that, and within the police force, the leadership of the police force and the Gold Board and the ministers, they need to do that. themselves. They have to have a full-fledged investigation of all of these things, the linkages, and people must face consequences. That's one. It's not limited to these three agencies. It should be also in the judiciary. It's harder there because, that's an independent branch of the government. But we have to put in place safeguards in the judiciary itself. And then with the media, which is often the biggest cheerleader for these Pablo Escobar types, some of them, it's hard to track the money because they collect it, in a way that it's hard to track. Doesn't go through an institution. So it is, and in this, like in Guyana's case, we're never going to be able to government to deal with that. So you have to just expose people, and you can see the orientation on the basis of the reporting. Any sensible person would know. Why would an Azruddin Mohammed say, I'm not answering your question because you're pro-PPP. So a media house that he perceives as pro-PPP, you have to be pro-Azruddin. And then he turns to the Stabrook News, or Kaichor News, etc. He doesn't. Imagine I say, I'm not taking question from you, Kaichor News or so. People would say, what the hell is going on with Jagdeo? He's a member of parliament. He can't, this guy, you can't pick and choose. He doesn't want to do that because the tough questions will come. He doesn't want to answer that. And the others will give him softball, etc. So it's exposing. You know already who they are. Look at those articles. Every time, just when he went to the court, the Stabrook News again, supporters strung Mohammed outside the court. Not that this guy is going there to face extradition proceedings for criminal behavior. Anywhere in the world, that would be the story. The supporters strung him. What kind of supporters? The people who collecting their 20,000 and went back home. They went back home. Like the 20 who went to the convention center outside. The 20 persons who went there after they called on them to come out and witness this historic day. 20 of them showed up there.
Even the new dispensation that we're seeing in the 13th Parliament and its makeup, you alluded to the importance of political savviness when you spoke about the reconvening of Parliament and so forth. Will your strategy now see perhaps less presence here in terms of your General Secretary engagements and more of a presence in the Parliament? Will we be seeing you more there?
In Parliament? Parliament, well, the Parliament should do the people's business, and we need to make sure that the people's business, we discussed this, that all of the things that we promise in our manifesto, if they require a legislative change or new laws, those must be priority in the Parliament at this stage, because it's part of our fulfillment of the promises we made to the electorate for better education, housing, water, all of these things. So we've already prioritized what we want to do there. Then on law and order, that's the next set of priorities. So it is series of legislative agenda that prioritizes the tools to deliver on our promises, to keeping our country safe, which has several dimensions, the external dimension as well as the local one. So for example, working towards ensuring that we have laws that we can better track people here, etc. Those are the kinds of things we're talking about. So we have defined what our parliamentary agenda is already. And once those are pursued, Parliament is not like everyday thing. So you would see me as General Secretary of the party a lot more on the ground too, because that's where we build up the party. I made it clear a lot of young people for training for the next generation of leaders, a lot more women in the party, the women's movement. We got to expand the women's movement. We have to build on our support in many communities that are not or not historically sympathetic to us, the Afro-Guyanese communities. In the Amerindian communities, we have to respond to a lot of young people because a lot of them have asked for different sorts of things than just the road. They don't want a road. Many of them want more training opportunities. So being sensitive to that. In the Indo-Guyanese communities, they want to make sure that they also are, that we don't neglect those communities. That's a strong part of our base. So we're going to be a lot on the ground. So they got pipe dreams about 2031. They got a lot of pipe dreams about 2031. Let me tell you, they don't understand. A lot of the people, the first time impact is different. The novelty thing wears off. People would see their performance in Parliament. The novelty wears off. And people will go for stable, secure government that progressively takes care of our people. Jobs, security, education, health, etc. That's what we are offering as PPP.
Thank you. Finally from me, Vice President, you alluded to the agenda that the government will be rolling out in Parliament. And I was wondering if you can give us some insight on the legislative agenda for the oil and gas industry. I know there's been a lot of focus on developing gas.
Yes.
So what can you
if
tell us
that
about
requires legislative changes, then fine. But there are some regulations that we now need to put in place for the main act that we passed, and also on the environmental side, the one on pollution. Those are the two acts that we need to complete the regulations for. If we need further legislative changes to facilitate the growth of the gas sector, that will be done. To monetize and democratize the opportunities that we spoke of, like fertilizer and the cooking gas, and promoting Guyanese ownership. Should we need legislative changes, then that will be done too, to structure the companies in a manner that would allow us to get Guyanese ownership of those companies. We may move forward there too with legislative changes. Local content, definitely. I saw the president of ExxonMobil here saying that might not be, and you may not need to move the percentages up or change the law. Well, we believe it has to be changed. I disagree with him on that. We are going to be having that conference, and that will require either through the regulations, or if the core act has to be changed, we'll change it. So it will be agenda driven. A lot of what we need to do will be there to have a legislative arm.
Jarabai. First question, the media report, your reaction to the increase in money supply, increase in the non-oil economy and so on, specifically. And a question on biodiversity instruments, which you mentioned in your opening statement. After Apple would have purchased our credits and so on, have other companies also expressed an interest, or airlines? Because at one point we were trying to get airlines to purchase the credits.
Yeah, so yes, there have been some small sales that we are pursuing, but high priced, because we don't want to compromise on the price that we got through the Hess arrangement. In the voluntary market, as I said before, there is no compliance market outside of the CORSIA market, and that market is very tiny. So where most of these emissions are traded would be on the voluntary markets. And that again is low volume and low price. We don't want to diminish the high quality of our carbon saving efforts by entering those markets at a low price, or else we would have sold everything already. So even the sales that are smaller that we are pursuing must maintain the same high level price that we got. So we're not rushing to do that. We still have 70% of our credits to sell. So we're not rushing to do any of that. When the good opportunities come along, we will then pursue them. But they must be really high valued opportunities. On money supply and stuff, money supply has to do a lot with, sometimes it's deliberate and it shrinks or it expands deliberately. And then sometimes it happens because of economic conditions. So often in times of, if the money supply grows beyond the real economy, it promotes inflation. If it shrinks too much based on the transactional need for money, it leads to economic shrinkages or lost opportunities. So often it's a balance, and a 6 months movement is not a good gauge or barometer to judge a macroeconomic policy. Macroeconomic policy is made up of several things. You look at the four macro accounts, you look at your balance of payment, you look at exchange rate policy, interest rate policy, and then you determine to some extent whether you want money supply to grow or not. You look at the fiscal deficit and how you'd finance it. So don't try to judge too much from a 6 months report of a movement in a particular variable. The non-oil economy grew in a healthy fashion. You saw that. In a healthy, which is pleasing, very pleasing. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Good afternoon. Dr. Bharrat Jagdeo, we saw President Ali encouraging Guyanese to set up their bank accounts to access the cash grants. Mm-hmm. What would happen to those living in the hinterland? What mechanism will be placed?
We're looking at it. Nobody will be denied their cash grant because they don't have a bank account. But it's good to do that. So we're obsessing over this issue. When you talk about obsession, it's not with Mohammed, it's how do we get all of our people connected to the financial system? Even people who live in guns, the most remote parts of our country, or say barometer. So not just coastal areas. So this is where fintech, internet banking, mobile banking is important. And that's what we are working on aggressively to see whether through the taxation system we can encourage people to provide that service. So you could be in Ghana and you have a phone, and because they have now the internet connection, you can check your account, you can have an account, you can have your money paid into your account right there and stuff like that. You can track it. We are trying to see if we can put in electronic. You can't have a bank in every area, but you may be able to have in some central areas like terminals where people can go and access cash. So say the 5 sub-districts in Region 9, they can all have like a central area where people can go, like Letem, Anai, Karasabai, or Aishalton, or one of those places, and then they can come to those areas and do banking transactions. You're not going to be able to have full-fledged banks, but those kinds of units. So that's when the president urged people to set up the bank account. We're hoping that more and more people will be doing this, and then it's easier for us to put money. You don't have to go and join a line to get your money or something like that. It gets paid into your account. That's where we want to move the country to. But nobody would be excluded because they don't have a bank account. We're not going to do that, especially in the remote areas in the country. But we're like some of the places when we gave checks in Region 1, a lot of people couldn't even cash their checks too. We had to go back in several times. People became a little dissatisfied with us because we gave the checks, but they said we have the checks and we can't get our money. And then they blame us for it too. So we then had to work out all sorts of arrangements for that to happen. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you very much.